BlaXit family, BlaXit family, BlaXit family. I was doing my dancing here because, but I am apologizing, and this is my apology dance. I'm so sorry for you today for my lateness. I did try and put out a message, but I got delayed in traffic. I forgot all about the fact that it is just before a festive period, and so many people obviously would be on the road. So I'd like to wait for a few people to join us. I'm joined by Abdullah Jang today. He's in the studio. And Seth, can you send the links out for me, please, to our guests? And also, it's for Cafe is right there at the back as well. So if you could hear me, could you just give me a little message in the comment section? Can you send this out for me, please?
No, somebody's already commented.
Yeah, it's there. Ah, greetings, Take. How are you? Good evening, Black Empowerment. How are you? Greetings, Marquis Milton. How are you? I'm going to share the link because I want you to join me on today's show. Oops. I'd like you to join me on today's show. So, how are you all? How you been? How's your week been? As you see, I'm trying to be consistent with the posts, and so I'm going to put this on. I'm also going to put it in the private chat so that you can also paste it from there as well into your call bar. So I'm going to keep pasting the link. Yeah. And so I've just done that. Let's have a look. Good evening, George H. Tucker. Marquis Milton says good day to you and yours. And Umla Michelle says hello, happy people. So thank you for bringing that closer to us. So I'm here joined by Abdullah Jeng, who's an educator and philosopher, would-be politician and teacher here in the Gambia. Say hi to BlaXit family.
Hi, Bla Xit Family.
Okay, I think we need to edge the camera a little bit more, sir, because he's slightly out of shot, so you can't see him. Okay, I think we're being joined by Milton. Hi, Milton. How are you today? Can you hear us?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay.
Greetings, brother. Oh. Come back in. Try and come back in again. Okay, Africa's Vanguard said, greetings, BlaXit family from the People's Republic of Brooklyn. But you heard Brooklyn. Over there in the States. Greetings. Thanks for joining us. Brian. Hey, Brian. BlaXit family, BlaXit family, BlaXit family. Thanks for that message there. And Abu Mustafa, Adushi, good evening, BlaXit. You look good. Really, you like the dress, huh? Okay, so thank you for that. Let's add to. Okay, let's hope you stay this time. So, how are you?
Okay, can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Okay,
you know, how are you?
I'm doing good. I've been so blessed by all your shows. This is my first time talking to you, but I've sent you emails and stuff, and I follow a lot of the things that you put out. And I am still wondering about the, what do you call it, when they let you come back to Africa and live and kind of like change into, or not change into, but to for lack of a better word, say matriculate into African awareness. How's that coming along?
Okay, so yeah, it's coming along really well. I don't know if you've been following us, how closely you've been following us, but we did this year. We've had a phenomenal year in fact,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
we've made a lot of progress. We had a few events. We had one event which was called Unity in the Community, and that
Mm-hmm.
was well attended. And about bridging the gap between us Africans who aren't born on the continent and those that are. And then we had a symposium, Transatlantic Slave Trade Symposium, which was about enlightening and sharing information. And that information came from our brothers here on the continent and also others that aren't born on the continent. So that and sisters as well. So that was a phenomenal event, and it was well attended by many of the National Assembly members. After these events, we then went on to have an audience with the Vice President. And of course, we talked about the issue, which is very important, regarding us having a stake in the future of Africa, which is very important. And by that, I mean becoming citizens. We formed a program, an automatic citizenship program, which is about
Right.
us being automatically seen Africans first, because that is one of the common problems that I found in my own inquiries and investigations and research, is that many of us aren't seen as Africans first. And so that is something that has to be addressed, because if the identity is wrong in the first place, citizenship is going to be incredibly difficult. So we have to be regarded and see ourselves as Africans first. And then we asked for a reduction so far as the term is concerned for us to be fully fledged citizens. But we did say that we'd like to put in a program to make this happen. And that program would be about 2 years, which is an integration program. And so far as us doing that and actually trying out elements of it, it has been quite successful. I'm going to hand over to Abdullah to maybe talk to this. What do you think the progress has been? You're Gambian and you're here and you've been observing, you've been working on this for a while. So in terms of observing our projects and observing our progress. So what do you think?
Yeah, hi to the whole BlaXit family. I think it's been very well over the couple of years, and we been working so hard, pushing together about automatic citizens for African descendants who were born outside the continent. And one of the things you have talked about is like about identifying you people as Africans. I being an African brother who is born here, and you also, you are an African who is born in a different continent. I think one of the problems we have is so many people could not identify you as Africans, and they can easily misunderstood you as Europeans or Americans or other Asians, no matter where you were born. So this is one of the biggest problems we face right now. And this problem is not only at the lower level, but it is across, in the whole continent, whereby Africans find it so difficult. I think one of the problems we have is because these are things which are not taught in the school system, because most of the history of Africa is been distorted, or they don't want to, they don't give us the right curriculum. And this is the biggest problem, because we don't learn much about what happened during slavery, how people were taken, from Africa, how many people. So these are some of the problems. That's why so many kids and so many children, so many youths in Africa did not know what happened exactly. They did not know you were stolen from Africa, taken to another continent, and now you coming back home. So this is the problem we have faced. But as of now, regarding this question, we don't know what is our fate yet, because still now, especially, I'm talking of the Gambia, we were working with the government so that they could give automatic citizenship to African descendants. But still now, it's not yet approved, because there are so many laws which have been changed, not only about automatic citizenship, but so many things that, they are going through. And
Constitutional laws.
Yeah, they're going through transition, and, they have some pull and push. So it is not yet to be approved, but we hope now after this election, everything is settled. Maybe we could see some of the changes and be expecting at least, to get a positive result. Even if you don't get at least automatic citizenship, or at least, maybe we could have fast track citizenship, maybe for 2 years or whatever. At least we're expecting a good result from it. So,
Okay.
but it is, as you also say, you've been doing so many programs about sensitizing other peoples about African descent, sensitizing them about, they have to see you as brothers and sisters, they have to see you as Gambians, they have to see you as West Africans, they have to see you as North African, East, or African itself. So I think that's doing very well.
Yeah, sure.
Because even me, I talk to so many people, they have so many misunderstanding about African descendants, because like they call them tubab. Here we call white people tubabs.
Exactly.
So they still call you. So sometimes when you pass due to your accent, because way you speak, and they say, oh, you are a foreigner, you are a tubab or whatever. But at least, we've been doing very well because we have programs like Teach One, whereby we're talking to certain people in the society and they could understand. Because I can even remember sometimes in the last 2 months, I met a girl, who I was talking with about this issue. And she said to me, I think, African descendants, like the black people who want to repatriate back.
Perspective, please come back.
Yeah. So she said to me, I think they want to colonize us again. That's what she was telling me. I said,
oh, ridiculous.
Yeah. They don't care to colonize me. These are Africans. So and I have to put it to her, and I believe that she understood and she accepted.
Well, I don't understand how she would even have this conversation. Excuse me, Milton, sorry. How she would even have that thought when you're surrounded by people that are from, let's say, India, China, and Lebanon. I don't understand how you'd even have that thought. Like, let me welcome Perspective in. Welcome, Perspective. Today, we're really showcasing and talking to new YouTubers, everybody, your channel. Welcome to the channel. Hey, hi. Introduce yourself to BlaXit Family.
BlaXit. Okay, hi everyone. My first time on BlaXit Live. I'm really excited. Thanks for giving me this kind of opportunity to express myself. I'm really excited.
We've been speaking about Perspective quite a lot recently because Perspective has been very instrumental in supporting and helping us with our production values. So we are eternally grateful to you for your support and also for your help. Let's talk about your respective channels. Milton, are you a YouTuber?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Well, I'm a YouTuber light. I don't do very many shows, but I watch a lot of YouTube.
Okay.
But what I wanted to really ask you about was that, okay, I hear what the brother's saying, because when I started learning about Pan-Africanism when I was 19, and I'm over 50 now, and I'm still learning. I'm still going past the 1700s. I'm still seeing where our history, because it's not readily available. You have to hunt and peck for information.
Whereabouts are you?
I'm in California.
And Perspective, where are you?
Say that again?
Yeah, I'm in Gambia.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask that because I was just trying to get a gauge of where you were in terms of access to information.
I have access to information, but it's just like the brother was talking about. I'm sure that there's computers and books in Africa, because I've never been to Africa, but I'm sure in Gambia there are computers and books, but people don't know. So it's just like me. When I do research, I find things that I didn't know, especially when I go past the 1700s and learn about how the history of the continent and everything that happened. So when I was in Europe, for example, like I think you're from England, and I was there, some of the Nigerian people didn't see me as being African, but most of the Jamaicans did see a common heritage. And so this is a major thing that I think needs to be overcome along with the return.
Okay, so I'm going to put this to you, Perspective. So Perspective is a YouTube channel. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Africa Youth for Change.
Africa Youth for Change. So we've got two YouTube channels that we're going to be promoting today. Africa Youth for Change and Perspective. Now, Perspective, you're from Nigeria, and you heard what he just said about Nigerians not regarding him as African. What say you about that? How do you think we're regarded?
Sorry, take that again.
I said he said that when he went to Europe and he met some Nigerians in Europe, and then he met some Jamaicans. The Jamaicans regarded him as an African, but the Nigerians did not regard him as an African. And I'm asking, do you might have an inkling as to why that happened?
Okay, most times, most people, like he was saying something about information, right? We lack a lot of information. We lack a lot of exposure, right? So when you have that kind of treatment, you have people that they don't really understand that all of us Africans, Gambians or Ghanaians or Nigerians, so we're all one, right? But when you have that kind of treatment, is because of the exposure of that class of person, right? They don't understand. They don't understand I'll say maybe they don't understand the history, or they don't understand certain things, right? When it comes to being my brother's keeper, right? I wouldn't do that. So I really cannot. I really cannot stand stand or put myself in that situation, because like I said, some persons, they lack information. So I'm sure maybe because of their they lack exposure. So I'm sure because of their exposure to certain things, right?
Mhm.
That's why you had that kind of treatment.
That's why BlaXit is so important. That's why your show is so important and so good.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think it's important because, unless we can identify as Africans, we're not going to fulfill our common purpose. And this is why I'm having this show. Today, I kind of had an awesome day. I was out on the road filming, and we filmed 3 programs altogether and 1 interview. The first interview was with the OIC Secretariat, which is a body that was set up by the government here, and that was also there to support the Islamic Council, who are having a huge conference there, the OIC conference. And they are just another organization that's just like a bit smaller than the UN. And while we were there, we went to go and look at the contracts and the contractors. And it was really interesting to see, because there was like one huge road project, which was like 28 kilometers of road that was being made. And the contractors, Paris Fort, was from Sierra Leone. And they partnered with a Gambian company, I think it's Gambia. And so they had partnered with a Gambian company to do this. And these are humongous, mammoth operations. And, it was so nice to see that. And then I went to the airport to look at the new presidential VVIP lounge being built, which is another huge undertaking. And once again, it was a Senegalese construction company which were doing it. So it shows that Pan-Africanism can work, working in partnership with Gambian organizations. And these are humongous projects. So, and they also recently did the airport. And so what I'm trying to say is that is the lack of common purpose in small pockets, and how do we overcome that lack of common purpose? Because one of the things that we have to have is a common understanding before we can have a common purpose. And that is about vision. So I'm going to go to you, KD. Are you there? KD, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to know, what can we do to have a common vision? You're into, obviously, your channel is about, you know, showing stories, painting stories. It's about showing, droning, and you know, your content is all about showcasing different places in Africa. How can we use our platforms and our influences in order to create a common understanding that we need to have before we can find our purpose?
Okay.
What are some of the
first
tools
thing, okay, first thing that we need to do, right, is to teach people or tell people what happened, right? The history. Right, is to let them know that is to let them know what happened. Like, we went through a lot, right? We were in a point where, sorry, I'm having a call. We were enslaved to a point where, I'm like that. We were enslaved to a point where we went through a lot, right? To let them know the lost information, because we've lost a lot of information. I was sharing a video with you the other day where I was sharing a video with you where you had, it was like a communication. It was a communication play. Yes, they were lined up, right? We were just trying to tell you how we have lost a lot of information as time went on, right? So in order to show these young ones or to change the narrative, we need to showcase and tell people, put more of all these contents and more of all this information on our pages, right? To really educate these people, because most of them are being were miseducated. So we need to educate them to showcase all this lost information. Even there's some information, right, I can learn from your page, knowing that, okay, this was what happened in this time, right? So that's like that. That's one of the reasons why that's one of the things. One of my dreams is to have pictures instead of me having London Bridge, right? Because you know how growing up, most of the stories, right, because of who we were colonized with, most of the stories and most of the learning tools, right, was from was from the British, right? So to change all that, well, my main dream is, one of the things I want to do is to have like pictures of different, like pictures of different African places, right, being sold to, instead of me to have like, London Bridge on like the popular song I can remember up till now. London Bridge is falling down, falling down. I don't even know the song.
And you've never been to
Hello?
London, and it's not even relevant to your experience.
You understand? So what I'm trying to do on my own page is just to see how I can change all that narrative, right? Putting the African content in play, right? Putting the African content in play. So the only way we can change this is to see how we can educate people and show people that it's possible. This is when I made the trip to Senegal, right? I went to the where you have the monument, and I was really amazed with the information there, the history. They showed a lot of history. We go inside, they showed a lot of history that I never knew that kind of thing existed. So things like that, you will have to capture all that information and showcase to let people know, okay, this is what happened, right? Because most times we tend not to know. And the thing with media, right? Media changes your, will I say, changes your mindset. It changes how you think. It changes how you digest or how you respond to information.
Yeah.
So that's the only way. That's like my own take for it.
And Milton, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with him, but I would challenge him to expand, because as he was talking, I was thinking about my own situation. And
Okay.
I would say expand your thought, because it's also people in the diaspora who are ignorant of of, of so much, because our learning has been from Europeans. They wrote the books, they make the grades, they give the tests, in my country at least. And there's been a fight for, huh? There's been a fight to change
Yeah.
that, but it's not happened for our generation now. And now the next generation is still studying that same falsehood, that same lie. So they're still being led away from becoming a collective. So somehow we got to get the history correct. And that's a start. The history is correct. That's a start. But more than just history, we've got to have, I want to have some connection, personal connection with Africa. I want to go. I haven't been yet. It's my desire to go home. But I don't have a connection. I was like Ghana, Gambia, where, what, I just don't know. So, and it's a major step just to go and visit. It's so far away for me. Hello, Julia?
I agree with you. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with you because, coming from being born in the UK, I think it's coming back in. I think coming from being born in the UK, okay, let's add you in here. I'm just going to remove you there. That's it. So coming from a situation where I was born in the UK, obviously my education was a whitewashed education also, a Europeanized education, European-focused education. We grew up with the same nursery rhymes, ring a ringer, roses, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all fell down. London Bridge is falling down. Yeah, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. If you listen to all of the stories, Blah Bla Xit, do you have any war? If you listen to it, there's a common theme in all of the nursery rhymes. And this is part of the brain control and brainwashing that we've all faced. It's a systemized and systematic program that was engineered by organizations. And so that had a long-term view, because you've got to remember that children didn't go to school until a certain time, particularly in the Victorian ages in the UK. Children didn't actually go to school. And I'm going to start reading out a few of these comments because I'm sorry you've been neglected. Kwame, I see you there. Bijou Noir, my sister. Thank you, mind the computer. I'll just on the table. So just having a sip of water. And so, off the table, please. It slips on the computer.
It's really breaking.
Right,
I can barely hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was having some water. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let me just turn these phones off. Hang on a sec. Are you on my Wi-Fi? Okay. Okay, I've just tried to turn off my devices. Let me just see if everybody else has one sec. So, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, it's
So
like you're
what
the
I was
only
saying
person that.
is,
Okay, go on. No, go on, go on. I can hear you now. It's better now.
okay. So I was saying that these nursery rhymes, you know, we all know them. In America, you was taught the American anthem. We were taught the British one. I don't even know it, to be honest with you, because it didn't interest me. And what nursery rhymes did you learn? Because you're here, and so we've got UK, we've got the US, we've got Nigeria, and now we've got Gambia. So, what nursery rhymes and songs and this education did you get? Now you were born here.
Yeah,
Short and snappy.
Yeah, being born, you know, I was not very fortunate even to go through a nursery school. I did not go through a nursery school. I started just in grade 1, you know, when I was going to school. But one of the things I understood as being a teacher also after finishing my grade 5, you know, doing college, being a teacher for a while, you know, being in the school system, looking at what is happening. You know, in some of this rhyme whereby they will teach you things like A for apple, B for boy, you know, C for cat, things like that. Instead of teaching that the children, maybe A should be for Africa, and B should be for black, maybe C could be for Cameroon or another African country, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the problems we have, the education system in Africa, it destroys intelligence. Because when I look at some of the nursery school kids, 5 years of age, 6 years of age, these people, they don't know certain things, but they are very intelligent. And whatever information you feed them, that's what they're going to grow up with.
What nursery rhymes do you know? What nursery rhymes did you grow up with? Answer the question. I want to know. I'm going to be very specific here because I'm leading to something. What was the nursery rhymes?
So that's what I'm saying. I don't go to a nursery school, to be fair with you.
What songs did you sing at school?
That's what I'm trying to say. You know, you have nursery system. I don't go to a nursery because I grew up in the provinces whereby
so you didn't go to school at all?
No, I go to school, but I don't go through nursery.
Did you sing in school?
Yeah, we do sing. We have different songs.
What songs did you sing? This is what we're getting to.
Oh, okay.
He's going all the way around the houses. What songs did you sing?
No, you know, like.
Did you sing African songs or did you sing nursery rhymes?
No, we sing different kind of songs. Like sometimes we have African song, and even sometimes we have drama sort of. You know, when we are just.
So give me an example of a song. I'm trying to get to a point.
Okay, as a song, for example, let's say we can have and say goodbye teacher.
Yes.
Our coming school is over, and we are going when we want to close school, for instance.
That's a song.
Yeah.
And what language is that?
In English.
In English. Okay, so now we're getting to the common point. Yeah. So the common point, and Milton, what did you sing? What was the nursery rhymes that you had, or songs that you had?
Well, to be honest, I was like him. I didn't really participate in all the singing. But we had, like, I knew London Bridge was falling down. I knew that one. Yeah. And yeah, that was probably worldwide. You know what I mean? And there were some that I don't really remember too well because I didn't really participate in them because they were all Eurocentric. They were all Eurocentric. There was no positive idea. When I was a kid, there was no positive idea about Africa or Africans. Yeah. So I didn't pay attention, but like stuff like London Bridge and just different stuff about Europe was always something that the other classmates sung with happiness, you know? So because there was this void of positive feeling, of positivity toward Africans and toward Blackness, there was this void there. So I tended to shy away from a lot of that. Like, you had to stand up every day and what our mantra was to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. And that was every day. You had to say the pledge. It was kind of like an indoctrination to make you believe to make you believe in liberty and justice for all, but at the same time, there was no liberty and justice for all. So it was a indoctrination. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So, how do we go beyond the indoctrination and find our common purpose? Because one of the things, like this is going on a theme of what we had before, there's inter-African issues that are happening, and these inter-African issues that are happening, you know, even from country to country, traveling from country to country, using a Gambian or an African passport can be issues. I'm noticing my brother Wodamaya, you know, from my brother from another mother, I should say, Wodamaya, you know, who's a YouTuber who helps out the BlaXit channel, in fact, is instrumental in creating this channel. And I want to say congratulations to him on hitting his 1 million subscribers. Very, very proud of him. It's taken him 8 years to do so. And I think if maybe he was putting a whole heap of crap online, he probably would have got there a long time ago. But this is because of the fact that we don't have a common purpose. There are so many of us, you know, Africans, all over the globe, how many billions of us? And it's taken him 8 years to get to 1 million subscribers. You know, 1 million subscribers in 8 years because of the positivity of his content showcasing Africa. And the thing is that you've got channels like Youth for Change. How many subscribers do you have? Hundreds. And how much do you have, Perspective?
I have about 540. About 500.
Yeah.
500. About 540 or so.
Yeah, and the content is phenomenal.
535.
So I'm wondering, 535, he's very precise. And so thank you for that. I'm saying, and do you have subscribers there, Milton?
Yes, what I want to say is my YouTube station is a fledgling one because I have about 20. But the point is, I want to put on content that, like you say, have a mission, right?
Yes.
If we can get a common, because like yours is in BlaXit, that's kind of like the mission. It's all wrapped up in one slogan, BlaXit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like that. I've always liked that. But is there a formal mission statement that you made?
Yes. Yeah, we do. We have a formal mission statement. We are actually a limited company, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just a YouTube channel. And you know, part of our organization's vision and mission statement both include inward investment and development in Africa. And both of them include the reunification of Africans in Africa. And so this is a very big part of what our mission is because I think we've all been fooled. Let's just, you know, call it as it is. A lot of my colleagues here on the continent, and I'm going to come to you with this perspective, right? Many of them, including you as well, Abdullah, I'm sorry to say, but one of your missions, is to go to America or Europe, not to develop your own country. And I found that to be a very common issue, and that has been a common purpose of many Africans,
but
on the continent.
I don't want to go to Europe.
Yeah, wait. No, listen, he's not saying, doesn't mean that. He was advising the other day, don't listen to it.
No, I go for holidays, but
Holidays.
I don't want to stay in Europe.
Okay.
You know, I can go and visit, but
of course you can go and visit.
But I don't want to stay.
Yeah. What do you say? That's to your perspective, KD.
Okay, you know, everywhere has um, its gray areas, right? Everywhere has its own gray areas. When you told me about the UK, right, how it is on the streets of the UK, how people are being stabbed in the UK, I was shocked, right? Because growing up, that's not the story that we know, right? We just think it's a greener place. It's a greener place on the other side. It's greener on the other side. Here in Africa, we have our own troubles too, right? How the government are not really are not creating. I'll say they're not creating proper jobs, and they're not doing certain things that they are supposed to do that you're paying for. You pay tax, and the basic amenities are not being taken care of, right? We don't have proper. Well, I'll say we don't have proper healthcare service. People, you see a hospital that just let me not be specific, right? But growing up, right, we had that because of the information we digest that you guys create. I was not you guys because you're not Tubab that the Western world creates, right? So we've digested that information, and that information now gives us this. I'll say it gives us this. It gives us the picture that we want growing up. You get, but as I got older, I tend to change that vision because I was like, when I I I I watch on different documentaries, I see what happens, what normally happens in the US. There's this program that I normally watch, Police the Police on Facebook, where you have people being brutalized and being taken for granted and being even that's how the guy that the killed George. Hello? George Floyd, yes. So getting to digest all that information, I just like, man, there's no better place. And when I met you, and you left the UK and you came down to the Gambia because you saw it's a motherland, like you always say. You saw peace. When we had the interview where the 11-year-old girl said when she came here, she didn't want to go back to the UK, right? So when you digest with certain stories and you hear these things, you'll be asking yourself, like, as in this place that we grew up wanting to go, people are living there, coming back to the Africa that you want to live. so like, I never had that. Yeah, I had it growing up because of the information I digested. But right now, it's not where I want to be.
You know, I like how I was reading the comments too as they come in. I would encourage everybody to travel and visit because I think a lot of Africans people who are living on the continent of Africa would learn from going to the United States, going to Brazil, going to these different places where the diaspora is. And they can see and then maybe make a connection to some people there. Because that's what happened during colonialization, is the connection between the people was somehow lost or taken away. It wasn't lost, actually. It was purposefully taken away. So now we have to purposefully build connections back. That's why BlaXit is so important. And Juliet, what you're doing is so important because it is a connection. It's a connection. It's Even though I don't live in Gambia, I know someone who lives in Gambia who can tell me about Gambia. Yes. And I can make some kind of connection to the homeland.
Of course.
And Yeah, and I no, but it's not a minor thing that you're doing. This is a big thing that you're doing. It's big for me.
Thank
It's big for me because if it were not for you, I wouldn't have this. And it's not as good as traveling, but it's the next best thing.
Of course it is. I'm in my living room. You're in your living room. You're in your living room, and
Hmm.
we're communicating. We're talking, and so you know that I just ran. I was actually at a great restaurant, I must say today. No, and that's not the reason why I was late. It's actually it's Adrian's fault. Adrian for this. We were at a great restaurant called Gam Jam. And I want to just quickly share this story with you, just to show you the importance of listening to each other and having a common purpose. And that is, the fact that this family has come from the UK and they've set up a business here, a restaurant. And the food is amazing. It's called Gamba, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were eating, and we're sorry that you missed out perspective, but next time we'll take you there. And yeah, the food is amazing. It's not far from Pocoloco on the right hand side on that turn down in Senegambia. And we went there. We had some food for the first time. I've not been there before, so I want to say hello to Marlon and his wife for a sumptuous feast that we had today. The food, I hadn't had breakfast, so I went straight to work at the OIC, as you know, expected, because we were filming and doing the interview. And so that was the first meal of the day, and it was amazing. So their story was that they left the UK after watching BlaXit. They watched BlaXit and they picked up wholesale, lock, stock, and barrel, and
Yeah,
jettisoned from the UK and then came to the Gambia to live. And there's been no looking back for them. They're so
that
happy that they
that's
made
how
that choice.
powerful your show is. That's how powerful your show is. It's life changing.
Thank you. I see Joseph there. Joseph, and the link is there. I'm going to put it back in again. Sorry. I got carried away talking. I'm going to put the link back out there so everyone can join if you'd like to join in the conversation. It's a very lively debate today. And I think it's important. Some people have asked me, why I don't celebrate certain holidays. And that is because it doesn't serve our common purpose. It doesn't. And I think more of us need to look at what is our common purpose. If this holiday that's coming up is supposed to serve our common purpose, I do celebrate Kwanzaa from time to time, but how much money is spent with foreign companies? How much money is spent outside of our communities at this time of year? How strong do we make other economies? If we had a common purpose, we would know that at this time of year, we go to these Black websites, and this is where we're going to buy African-centered products from African-centered companies, distributors, marketing organizations, manufacturers, producers. And that's what we need. That is what we need. We need that common purpose, because the $3 trillion that comes out of our communities in the US and the billions of pounds that comes out of our community there in the UK would then actually help our own communities and our own continent. Because, the Chinaman goes back to China, the European goes back to Europe, and they want all their money to go to Europe. What is the African man doing? What is the so-called Black?
This problem is religion.
Back to Africa. A lot of people are saying there's going to be an exodus, and the exodus is going back to Africa. And believe it or not, you're one of the forerunners of that, Juliet, of this mass migration that a lot of people are predicting is going to happen.
Do you know what? It's already happening. You know, I think it's
Mhm.
been happening for a long time. It happened in trickles. When you look at the
Mhm.
Aku, you know, Sam was on last week, and we were talking about the Aku people, you know,
Mhm.
who are returned from slavery, and
Mhm.
then they ended up here in the Gambia. And if you look at Freetown, Sierra Leone, same story. You
Yeah.
look at
Mhm.
Liberia, same story. So this isn't so much as something new. This is something that has been happening for a long time. When you look at Marcus Garvey and what Marcus Garvey said, W. Du Bois, you know, W. E. Du Bois, he died in Ghana. Um, you know, when we look at so many other figures, you look at historical people during history, and then you look at even, you know, great leaders that we had, whether it was Julius Nyerere or, for example, Thomas Sankara. They were all great African leaders, and they led us right back to Africa. You know, Kwame Nkrumah led us back to Africa. Haile Selassie led us back to Africa. Haile Selassie founded Shashamani. Shashamani was to lead us back and give us somewhere that we could stay in Africa. And so, you know, this exodus has been, you know, the Black Star Liner was there for that. And so this exodus has been a long time coming. But what has happened is that we got distracted. I think that's what's happened. The 80s happened. We got comfortable. You know, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, once when she was giving one of her speeches, she said that we've got so comfortable with, you know, sitting around the table with racism that we've started to dine on it and eat the crumbs. And, you know, to the extent that we've got comfortable with racism, we've got comfortable with colonialism, we've got very, very comfortable with having, you know, the unfortunate little trinkets that they give us that make us feel important and, you know, seeking equality. Why would you be seeking equality if you know who you are? And that's the thing. Why would you want to be the same as someone who's a mass murderer? Or why would you want to be, you know, the same as someone who goes around destroying and pillaging nations and doesn't want to pay reparations? Why would you want to be the same? Why would you want to equalize with someone who does that?
Those are very good questions. But can I say this? When we look to the future, where do you I often think, I say, I hate the fact that I came into the world and now I look and I haven't been able to change the world, and it's going to go on for another generation like it did in the past generation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's it's got, like you said, it's got to be changed. The whole mindset has got to be changed. There's been books, you've got video, there's all kind of stuff, but like you say, how do we get to that one mass movement, that one mass movement of thought and agreement?
You know, some people say they're ADOS. Some people say that they're, you know, African descendants. Some people say, why can't we just say we're just Africans? Can't we just have a common identity first? Because if we all say we're all just Africans, it's like when you go to America, there might be many different states, and you might say, yeah, I'm from New York, I'm from Brooklyn. You know, terrible accent there. I do apologize in advance for
Yeah,
everybody
it was pretty
listening.
bad.
Yeah. But I'm just giving you an example. Yeah. Right? So we might have, you know, those differences in terms of, you know, like, for example, I might have been born in London, but I might also have, you know, a friend who was born in Birmingham, you know, and who talks differently to I do because it's the
Mhm.
same country, it's just a different area. And because of that, they talk differently to I do. And so,
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say is that they still see themselves, for example, within that same country mass. And so we have the continent of Africa, and we have Africans that were removed from Africa. And so Why is it that we have this issue of segregation, separation, and we refuse to identify as Africans so we can have one common purpose? Because if we did and we came together, reparations wouldn't be a problem.
Well,
Black unity,
if it's just
unity wouldn't be a problem. What do
if
you
that
think?
question is just thrown out, then I would like to answer it. For example,
Okay, please.
huh?
Abdullah wants to talk. Go ahead.
Okay,
I
go ahead.
think, one of these things for it to be achieved, the disconnection have been there for over, let's say, over so many years. It's not going to be very easy for us just to get it in one day going, but it just has to take some time. It's about talking to people. It's about sensitizing people, making people to be aware about it. And I think one of the places where we can start this is at the schools, talk to young kids, young children, so that they can grow up with it. I think that's one of the best way to do it, because most of the old people, one can say, you understand, they, like they've been controlled by the Western world, and the people who should lead us into some of these things is being controlled by the Western world. And I also don't blame some of them, because we have seen so many, Pan-Africans, when they want to do so many great things for Africa, they've been killed, or so many things happen to them. So, but what we can do, is like, now you see young people like me talking about Pan-Africanism. Before, in the last 30, 40 years, you don't see young people. You have old people who are talking about Pan-African. But now, at least, you see small boy, 15 years, 16 years, 20 years old boys are talking about Pan-African, are talking about Africa, because they seem to be tired. They all look at Africa with all these massive resources, what we have, and still Africa is lagging, behind. So I think if we start with the younger generation, maybe even if it doesn't happen in our time, but at least it's going to happen later.
I'd like to welcome Sam to the show. Thank you, Sam, for joining us. Sam, can you hear me? You might want to unmute your mic, Sam. Age, you joining us? Oh, okay. So, Sam, if you can hear us, please unmute your mic, because I can't do it remotely from here. So you'll have to do it, please. Okay, in saying that, I just want to join in by saying, look, if we could even teach our children basic songs, just basic songs from school, yeah, instead of Kumbaya, my Lord, yeah, why don't, we teach them our own stories and songs like griots? Why don't we include our culture? Why don't we praise our culture? I remember hearing I'm Black and I'm Proud when I was growing up by James Brown, yeah? And that song had such an impact on me, that it didn't matter, whatever the occasion is, that song is always being played, because it had such an impact on my psyche. And it helped to give you that common purpose, that feeling of, being powerful, of having self-esteem, self-confidence, of knowing that you're part of, a huge family. And I think that's really, really important that we're able to do that.
Well, Juliet, I'd like to say this. Living through that movement, I remember when I was a youngster and the young people were starting to grow their hair out, and the older people didn't like it. But we would say we're growing our hair naturals. We're growing naturals is what we called it. And then there became a movement that the Black is Beautiful movement. And that happened in America, and that was a revolutionary movement toward the way we think about ourselves, because we used to see ourselves as something negative. But in this generation, my generation, that was changed, that was broken. And then we started the movement African American. So now when you see a black person, they say, what category do you fit in? We all say African American, whether they're light skinned, dark skinned, whatever. If they got melanin in them, they say that they're African American, which connects to Africa. They make a psychological connection to Africa. That was in my lifetime here in the United States. Although I don't think it happened in Africa, and I hope there's somebody listening from Brazil so that we can hear what happened there and the rest of the diaspora. But Juliet, and your experience in England is kind of connected to the experience that we had in the United States. Because when I remember one time I was riding home on the bus, I had to leave from the white area, and then I went into the black area, and every window was playing "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud" for at least a mile going through the black area. Everybody was playing it because it was on the. We only had one radio station, and everybody turned it up. So when you passed through there, it was playing out of every window. And so you just open the window on the bus and you can hear it, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." And there were white people on the bus and there were black people on the bus. And it changed the minds of people. It's very powerful.
Sure.
So now with the BlaXit movement, I understand you wanted to pick up speed and steam, and I do too. And we want to have one idea, one focused idea. And I encourage you to find that focused idea. I would say a lot of it has to do with knowing yourself, education. We have to educate ourselves properly because they're never going to do it. Nobody else, the Europeans are never going to do it. They're always going to do it in their interest. We need to do it in our interest and for our children.
It's African literature. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask you, Sam, if you're there.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now. How are you? Thanks for
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's actually quite interesting debate. I mean, I only just joined probably the past 20 minutes or so, or half an hour, by the way. And there's a lot of ground you guys have covered in just in a short space of time since I've joined. But you were saying about the division that we have between the Africans in the continent and the Africans in the diaspora. Now, as I said before, and I've said this over and over again, I remember someone from America, an African American, stating, how come the Africans never came to their aid? How come the Africans never stood up for them with everything they're going through in America? In fact, even you can also extend that with people from the Africans in the Caribbean as well. And the thing is that we have to also understand that this is a system that was planned. And now, when you create a system, you sit back and everything, just works automatically. You don't have to do anything to it, right? So the system is actually unfolding. And the example I gave last week when we spoke, I said to you guys that my son attends a private school. And, obviously there's only a handful of children, or probably about 10 kids in a class. So what happens is that you get to know almost every one of the parents. And obviously being minority in the school, because in the school you only have, I think, probably about 5 or 10% is black, and probably about 30% is Asians, and then the majority is white. So obviously you always find that the black kids tend to play more with the white kids because there's less black kids in the school. So I don't have any issue. I just let kids be kids. I don't get involved. But I always say to my kids, never be too hung up on friends, etc. Because as they're getting older, we could see that they've already started their own, groups whereby, whereas before when they had parties, all the kids would come together. So as the kids are getting older, you could see now that the parties, like there's a party that actually was held about some months ago, whereby it was all the white kids. There was no black kids invited, right? So you could start seeing that happening as the kids are growing older. So I always want my kids, and I said to my kids, I said, look, let me tell you
Do you think, I'm going to interrupt you there. Do you think we as black people, right, and I'm going to say it, right, and people might not like it, but do you think we as black people, we overcompensate and we want our black children to be mixing with white children because we feel that, it will be good for their social development?
no, for me
And-
personally,
we have an inferiority complex about it.
okay,
Because
okay,
white
let me, okay,
inferiority
go ahead,
complex
sorry.
having exclusively white parties. Do you understand? Having a token black child.
Okay,
there.
so all right, so let me just answer what you just asked me. For me, I don't think I don't think we don't have to, in order for us to actually, for our kids to advance in life, or for us to advance in life. But it's just, when you live in a country where majority is white people, okay, so inevitably it's going to happen. So, I don't think we should go out of our way to do that. No, we don't have to. We just have to just allow things to be. But if anything, we should be seeking to get to know each other among ourselves, because we have a lot of catching up to do, right? Among ourselves. I don't know if you noticed this, Juliet. Probably, I'm not sure. I can't remember it happening in Gambia, in Africa, because obviously when I left there, it was quite a long time ago. But in the UK, I'm probably in America, it might be the same. Have you noticed when you're passing another black person, it's almost as if they're looking out for someone. It's like they're looking at you thinking they know you, right? So for me, that probably comes from back in the days whereby families were torn apart, right? Families were torn apart, right? For example, when I speak to people from the Caribbean, or from Africans from the Caribbean, or from the US, I always say, look, your ancestors are my ancestors, right? Not necessarily because, you actually were born in America directly from Africans who were taken as slaves over there, meaning that they're not my ancestors. They are our ancestors, right? They are our ancestors. Because all of us, we have families that have been split. And that's why this nonsense that keep on, for some reason, people like to beat it up, or beef it up. Oh, you're from the Caribbean, or you're from Africa, you're from the US. We're all Africans. Black does not. In fact, to be honest, if you look at the Africans, there's so many shades of skin tones. So who would you define as black? Would you say that the people from Sudan are black? Right? So for me, again, I agree with you, Juliet, that we have to define ourselves as Africans, regardless of where you come from. And I know that quite a lot of people who are in the diaspora, they're ashamed to be called Africans, because guess what happened? As I was saying before about the system that's been put in place. The system has been put in place so that right now, it just works. So for example, I believe prior to Westerners coming to Africa, Africans never used to look at their skin. Africans never used to look at their skin color and say, you know what, hey, hang on a minute. I want to be lighter. I'm going to put bleach on my skin. I'm sure that was something that we never thought about, right? But if you take a look at the white man is not white. You can say some of the black people are black, but not everyone is black. So as Dr. Henry Clark said, it's not about the color. Black does not define who you are as a person, right? What defines who you are as a person is your heritage. And what's your heritage? It's African. Now, if you want to deny that for whatever reason, that's up to you. That's your problem. But it doesn't mean that you denying the fact that you're of African descent. It doesn't mean that you denying it means that it's going to change. It's just you're being a fool and you're hindering yourself, right? Because you see, when you look at people from certain cultures who embrace their culture, who embrace their heritage, who they are, you always seem to see them very successful. Because success starts from you being confident about who you are as a person and loving it, right? success as a person and loving it. And one thing, in fact, if I want to go down this route, which I don't want to, if you take a look at different shades of people, if you look at, again, I mentioned this last week, when you look at a black person, they reach a certain age and they still look really young. They still look really young, right? They look really young. I mean, in fact, to be honest with you, we went somewhere just last week, and this young lady, she's black, and she thought my wife was 20. She actually thought my wife was 20, right?
Wow.
And we're far from 20. We're far from 20. Do you understand? So how can it be that African people don't stop and think, hang on a minute, people looking at me, when I get older, okay, I'm older now, or they're looking at other people who are even older, because all you have to do, even if you're young, you're in your 20s or you're in your teens, all you have to do is look at other people who are black, who are of African descent, probably even dark skin, okay, or whatever complex. They don't get older quick. Now, why the hell would you want to go and bleach your skin? Now, for example, Juliet, I was meant to make mention this.
Is because we don't have a common purpose. I'm coming back
Juliet,
to this time once again. If we had a common purpose, yeah, we would be proud of who we are and what we are. We have allowed ourselves to be, we've allowed ourselves, right, and for our psyche, yeah, to be infiltrated. We've allowed our minds to be infiltrated by standards of beauty which are not ours, okay? We've allowed our self-image to be perpetuated by something other than our own. We have allowed our Africanness to be misappropriated and culturally stolen by other races. We've allowed ourselves, right, to abuse ourselves. And we abuse ourselves at every opportunity. Every opportunity we get, we abuse each other. We are the only race who love to go and sleep outside of our race more than we love our own race. We'd rather go and marry and date outside of our race someone who does not look like our own mother. Yeah.
You see, Juliet.
And I'm not saying that it's happening everywhere. What I am saying, it's happening almost everywhere. And the question is that the black woman has always been good enough. Yeah. The black woman has always been there for the black man. And the black man has always to be there for the black woman. So it has to be a joint tandem, because if you have male counterparts, well, I'm going to say this because we're talking about bleaching, and I heard what you're saying, but I'm going to hit a point. If black men are going after white ideologies and white ideals of beauty, then what do you expect the black woman to do? Then try and emulate those same standards of beauty in order to be
Juliet, listen. Look.
Let me land, Sam, right? To be attractive to the black man. So we can't talk about bleaching in an isolated way. We can't just talk about, and it's not just women doing it, it's men as well. What I'm trying to say is we can't just talk about it isolated. You have to talk to the psyche and the mind set that goes along with that process, because I see it happening a lot in Africa, and they're doing it, because they think that when you're lighter or whiter, you have a better life, you have a better experience, that you're exposed to more opportunities. They don't see that their skin looks blotchy and awful and looks as though it's peeling, it's about to drop off, and that, their elbows, their knuckles, and their feet are patchy and their hands are patchy and they look terrible. They don't see that.
Yeah, Juliet, listen, before I forget this, okay?
Why do you want to wear hair, blonde hair then?
My auntie, who is in her 70s, I think, or so, in the 80s, etc., in the early 80s, etc. I remember when she was young, I remember when, I would see her eyes. Her eyes were like green. She would put, I never used to know whether she put anything in it, etc. But her eyes were green. And I used to think, it's strange, but I didn't think much about it. And I think about 10 years ago, my cousin, who is an eye specialist in the Gambia, he uh, contacted me and said to me, look, you know what? Our auntie is now blind. And, when I asked him, what could be the reason? And he reminded me, you remember all those things that she used to put in her eyes so that her eyes could look green and blue? Now she's paying the price. She's blind. She's blind. Right? So if people who don't want to listen and they want to go ahead and bleach and put stuff in their skin, that I remember, in fact, during the times when Michael Jackson was quite big, I remember, back then you remember the Jerichos. Everyone used to put like chemical on their head. It used to sting so much. And I remember once my aunties, they actually had like, the tub, and I actually went and scraped the tub, and I went and rubbed it on my head. My God, it did a damage to the skull of my head. It was sore. And I thought to myself, why are we putting these things in our head? So if you want to actually, for me, everyone is free to do whatever they want. Nobody has to do whatever you and I or we are saying. Everybody's free to do whatever they want. If you want to go marry a white person, go ahead. If you want to actually date somebody who has long blonde hair, that's your problem. It's got nothing to do with me. But what I'm saying is that for those who don't want to, for those who actually love themselves, love their people, love their skin color, then just keep on doing what you're doing, right? Keep doing what you're doing. We can never get everybody on board. So I'm not going to waste my time on those people who think that it's better or the grass is greener on the other side. Those are the type of people that we're not even going to waste time on. What we should be spending time on is educating our young people. Let them know that they're beautiful just as they are, etc. And they don't need to change. They don't need to do anything to themselves. Again, like I said, my auntie is an example of it. Having a green eye. I'm not saying that black people don't have green eyes. Some black people have naturally green eyes. I've seen some black people with natural blonde hair. If you look at in the Pacific Islands, etc. But you having to want that just because you probably see a white person has green hair, green eyes or blonde hair, I think is stupid. In fact, even when I see a black woman with a blonde hair, I'm just thinking, okay, I know that you could be very creative, but I mean, it's just not needed. Just allow your natural hair. In fact, to be honest, I don't know if you notice. In fact, this is funny. My wife, where she goes in sometimes to work, this white man was actually asking her work colleague was asking my wife, said, why is it that black women are always hitting their head, tapping their head? And my wife actually took a minute to think and then laugh, because she realized that what a white man is actually referring to is black women who wear wigs, and because in the scalp is actually itchy. Right? So they keep tapping their head. And the white man was actually quite inquisitive. Fine, why do they keep tapping their head? So for me, I don't understand why some black women, or most black women, would like to wear wigs. For whatever reason. Huh?
Can I ask you a question, Sam?
Yes, go ahead.
Where did the name Africa come from?
Okay, they said that the name Africa came, was actually, is it the Romans who, from North Africa? It was a word that was used to describe black people, but it's a word that was used to describe black people. Yeah.
Was it a word to describe black people, or was it a white man named Africa who named the continent after himself?
Yes, I know. Yeah, but I mean, yes, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
If we don't go by Africans, what names can we use then in order for us to describe who we are as a people?
There is a very important point. We would argue to call ourselves Africans when really and truly that's not what we are. Somebody named our continent, and now we're following it's just like with everything. It's just like with the hair. It's just like with the education. It's just like with everything. we're following and not creating our own narrative, like Juliet likes to say. What
Mhm.
is our narrative? What are we saying and doing?
Mhm. Right. No, you do actually have a point there. But then again, like I said, we are speaking a foreign language. You're speaking English, which is not originally our language,
Right.
and others are speaking French. Now,
Mhm.
unless if we can trace any tribe in Africa whereby a lot hasn't changed in probably hundreds of years or probably 1,000 years, I don't know, then probably they may be able to describe how the continent was called or how the people were referred to back then. And then again, it would be a point of having to translate it or use the same word in English. Because if you think about it, when you're speaking the English language, you definitely use English words to describe. Now, if we want to go, for me personally, I'll tell you on a personal note, I'm not really bothered about the fact that I'm referred to as African, or some other people say Alkabulen or Akabulen or Alkabulen. I can't remember the name. I think it's Alkabulen.
Mhm.
I cannot. I'm not bothered about it. Okay, you can call me wherever you want to call me. Right? For me, what matters to me is what we see ourselves are.
That's
That's
right.
what matters. That's what matters. So
Mhm.
you can have name for everything, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. And I think going back, I don't want to go back to the religion thing because I know you have detracted from that, quite a way off. But if you take a look at Africa, for example, Africa has hundreds of different tribes, right?
Mhm.
Now, no, all the tribes were not worshiping one way of or one form of worship. They actually had different way of worshiping. Probably if you speak to all of them, they will say that they serving the same God, but they have different ways of doing things. So we can't have one way of worshiping for the whole of Africa and that everyone should follow suit. No, it's not possible because we have so many different tribes. I mean, in Nigeria alone, they have over 200 tribes,
But let me ask you this. Let me
right?
ask you this. I understand about the religion, but we
Hmm.
were talking about the economic development.
Hmm.
Can there be agreement on economic development?
Hmm. I actually agree on that. I actually came in at the time when you guys were on that topic. With regards to me, I have a new saying, and the saying is, as far as I'm concerned, whether you're a Muslim or you're Christian or whatever you believe in, I am African first, right? My Christianity only precedes my Africanness when I'm required to do something wrong. Okay? And when I said wrong, you could actually think of whatever it is. But I am African first because I cannot say that I am Christian and then with everybody else who looks like me just because they don't believe they don't have the same faith that I have or practice the way that I practice. So I'm going to actually discriminate them and say, you know what, you're Muslim or you are atheist, etc., or you believe in this, you believe in that. No, I'm an African, and that's it. But again, if you want me to do something wrong, then that's where my faith kicks in, and that's not going to allow me to do what you want me to do. But I'm African first, meaning that I'm there for my people, right? I'm there for my people, and that's what we have to learn to be. We have to be there for each other. So, for example, even if you take a look at the Muslim religion, for example, in the Gambia, for example, I mean, when I was growing up there, a lot of the women there never used to dress like the Arabs. And recently, well, for probably for the past 10, 15 years, you got people dressing like the Arabs. That's for me, personally, that's not African. You can be a Muslim. Like when I was growing up in Gambia, there was lots of Muslim there. Majority has always been Muslim, but they would dress in an African way, like colorful, nice, elegant, gracious. But now, some people want to adopt the way that the Arabs are. Now, the Arabs, that's their culture, right? Now, I don't know much about it, and I'm not going to discuss much about that. But the point I'm saying is that we have to embrace who we are as Africans, right? We have to embrace because that's what we are. right? If you go to China, you're not going to tell a Chinese man, okay, because now you're going to be a Christian or going to be a Muslim, so you have to be this way or dress this way. You can't. They have their own culture, right? So we have to embrace who we are as a person. But if you don't
I
want to
just want to
embrace who you
welcome
are as a
in
person,
Kwame.
sorry.
And me.
Kwame, hi, Cafe. So, Kwame, welcome. How are you? Can you hear us? Kwame, I don't think he can hear us.
Kwame.
Sorry, everybody, my computer froze. I don't know what happened.
Katie.
Yeah. Hey, Caffrey, how you doing?
I'm good.
So, sorry, Sam, I was just trying to see if I could get Kwame in because he was waiting for quite a while. I didn't realize.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, sorry, continue. So we're going to close the program in a couple of minutes. So
I think
last words on common purpose, Sam.
as again, I will repeat what I said before, and that is we have to see ourselves as African first before we are Muslims, before we are Christians, before we are whoever we
Yes,
are. In fact, even
yes,
before our tribes, we have to see
yes,
ourselves as Africans, right? That's all I have to say. For example, before I was a Christian, or before my ancestors were Christians, we were not Christians, right? We were wherever it is where we came from. I don't even know where we came from. I don't know, right? So we have to
Mm-hmm.
see ourselves as Africans first, right? And also, just to one last point I need to make, some Africans don't know who or where they came from, just like some Africans in the diaspora who were taken as slaves don't know where originally they came from. If you want to look at the original tribes of Africa, a lot of us have lost that as well. Though we were born in Africa, but we were returned. Okay, so in the same way, some of you in the diaspora are actually complaining you don't know who you are. We are also saying the same thing. Okay, but what matters is that we're Africans.
Okay,
yes,
and
yes.
I'm going to go across to perspective. Perspective. How will we ever get to our common purpose as Africans? What say you?
I agree with what Kwame just said, and what I can
That
add
was
to
Sam.
it is,
Hey,
so,
Kwame.
okay, it's just to keep doing what we're doing and see how we can connect with one another. See how we can connect, because it's a very complicated issue, and it will take a very long time for us to get that thing we want. But it's possible. It can be done.
I agree.
Yeah, that's true, actually. So, Kwame, someone
Yes,
said, I think it's Angela Plummer, said
yeah,
start by, having African names. So,
yes.
Kwame, what say you?
Yes, we should have our African names, like you and I, definitely. Because these African names not only identify with us, but it has a meaning. We should throw away these non-African names because they have nothing to do with us. And I mean, I'm sorry I came late, but I mean, the debate that you've done tonight is not only interesting, but it's inspiring. I totally agree with what our brother says. We are Africans first and utmost, and we should not let anything get in our way. We are Africans first and utmost, nothing else. Africans, that's what we are, home and abroad. It doesn't matter what we do, yeah, in and out, we are Africans, full stop. But I'm sorry to say this as well, that some of our people are misguided, very misguided. We come with silliness that we're Negroes, we're colored, we're black and this. Listen, we are Africans, nothing else, whether you like it or not.
Okay, I'm over to you, Milton. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this. It's apparent that we're all African. You can look at us and see us. What we have to do is we have to look at us and see us. That's who we are. And we need our own narrative. And Juliet, it may be up to you to write the book of of this common purpose. And that would probably be the name of it, Our Common Purpose. You know, because we need a common purpose. And you like the idea of a female leading the way. Well, okay, then pick it up and lead the way then. Because you're already leading. If you want to know the truth, you're already leading. So you have to work harder at it now. Because so many of us are depending upon you. And a book about a common purpose would be a theme that a lot of people could connect with. The brother talked about connection. We need connection. We do need connection. But there's always a person that you connect to.
Yes.
Like people connect to Marcus Garvey, like you gave that example. Okay, that's true. But then what happened with Marcus Garvey? When his thing was becoming more and more successful, then there was infiltrators and all this other stuff. So so there's always a Judas. So you have to watch out for that. I agree. But the focus didn't change, even though the leader got taken out. Marcus Garvey, I'm talking about. The focus was changed. So if you build the vision good enough, Juliet, will outlast you. So I encourage you to build the vision and make it plain so everybody can understand it. Build the vision and make it plain.
Where's Sam? Sam, have you dropped off? Sam, thank you so much. Are you still here, Sam? I don't see Sam. Sam, come back in if you can, because we're going to round off very shortly. So I just wanted you to have any last words. So for me, I think one of the issues that we have is that if we get money, we think that we're okay where we are. We forget that we're Black until someone, or African until someone kindly reminds us that we're African. And then, we then realize that not even the money can protect us in the West. I think that we're far too comfortable living in the colonizers' land. I just think we're too comfortable. I think that we've forgotten who we are. I think we've lost the connection with our brothers and sisters on the continent. I think we've bought into the false narratives. And I say some of us, I'm not saying everybody. So before people come in and say that I've accused everybody, no, I'm talking about some of us. And when I say some of us, I'm including myself. Yeah, because when I was in the UK and I heard certain things about Africa, of course it brought to mind certain things. Of course there was a silly old black and white cartoons always showing negative images of Africa. Of course you have the charity and aid adverts always making it seem as though Africa is impoverished and devoid of being civilized. But I did read something quite recently, and I really enjoyed it. And it was sent to me by somebody. I can't remember the details of it, but it was basically to round up. It said that civilization, means that my son doesn't know what gender he is. I would rather not be civilized. If civilization means that everybody just looks at everybody else through a computer and they don't know how to say hello to each other or to relate to each other, I would rather not be civilized. If civilization means that I have to have relations with my same gender, would rather not be civilized. They said that, if I have to living a society where I'm tantamount to being a slave, I would rather not be civilized. And they went on and on and on for various reasons as why they would rather not be civilized. If we can walk past each other in the street without saying hello, I would rather not be civilized. If I cannot show respect to my elders, I would rather not be civilized. And just a lot of basic things. If I cannot, feed people who have less than me, if I have to work in a classist society, then I would rather not be civilized. And so, if that is the case, then I would rather not be civilized, because coming to Africa not only changed our lives, but has changed many other lives and has opened the doors to many, many other people coming back to Africa. And I've witnessed myself and some colleagues, managed to support, especially like at the beginning, 500 people to come home. And these, was hard work, and it was hard work. And, you're not getting paid for doing it. And the thing is that sometimes some of these people are very, very ungrateful as well. And then they want to go and try and tear your name down, even though you tried your best. But my point I'm making is this: I would rather be in Africa than anywhere else. And I'm imploring you, I'm pleading with everybody, come and help to develop Africa. That should be our common purpose. Once we, realize that we are African, then let's put, Africa first. Let's put Africa first. That's what I think, our common purpose would be. Loving one another, respecting one another, growing with one another, developing with one another, and unifying with one another. Putting the tribalism, as they call it, and I don't like calling it that. I call it lack of unity within culture, aside, and starting to make formulations. So because I was born in the UK, it shouldn't preclude me from being married to an African on the continent. So, if I'm a Fuller, it shouldn't preclude me from being married to a Jola. Or if I'm Igbo, it shouldn't stop me from being married to Yoruba. These fundamental issues that we have with regard to unification, have to be overcome. Because I see people say, oh, they can't marry, anyone from a certain group. I'm Mandinka, and they're Fuller, but then they can marry a Tubab. They can marry a white person. They have a motorcade, and I don't understand it. And they said, why? It's because everyone's of the same religion. So, I'm wondering, what is going on with us? What is going on with us? And do we have a common purpose? So, last words. What would you say should be our common purpose, Milton? Just to keep in a few words.
Okay, in a few words, I would say, let's come together and develop economically and get a good right of return home for people, so that people can come and they can invest and feel like this is theirs, and they're developing, and to stay there, not as colonialists, as one brother said, that some Black people, but we have to connect so that there will be a feeling that it's not somebody else coming to take over, but somebody coming home. That's definitely got to be part of the purpose. And the economic development has got to be part of the purpose. And there's got to be a love connection so that we can love ourselves.
Definitely. Kwame? Kwame, can you hear me? Okay, I'll switch to your perspective until we can hear from Kwame. In a few words, what do you think should be our common purpose, and include automatic citizenship?
Okay, it's just to same thing he said, unity, right? We need to understand. We need to understand that where Africa is one. Africa is not. It's not 57. I mean, how many countries in Africa? Africa is one. So we need to understand that we're all from one. We're all
Continent.
from one place, from one continent. One. It's not about you're Nigerian or you're Ghanaian or you're Gambian. We're all the same. We're all one. So that's the only way. Knowing that, so we don't have any tribalism, I'll say, or we don't have anything um, to partition us. Like, no, I'm not. He's Nigerian. We don't like Nigerians, or he's Ghanaian. We don't. We're all one. Africa. We're all, like he said. We should know that we are Africans before any other thing should follow.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. So Kwame, I don't know if Kwame is going to come back in. I think we might have lost Kwame. So I just want to say thank you. It's been a very interesting stream tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, BlaXit family, for joining us. Thank you to everybody that's put in excellent comments in the comment section. Totally appreciate that. And the thing is, someone has said that we need to stop fighting each other, stop tearing each other down. That should be our common purpose as well. And I'm inclined to agree. Kwame said Africans need to unite. Someone said that we have to fight for African unity, and we have to be Africans by any means necessary. And we're great at talking, but we need some action now, said Angela. And I think the action is leaving. The action is leaving. Once you leave and you get on the continent, you do have a mind revolution. You have a soul. You have a whole kind of I don't know if to call it as like a soul shake up, but you have a reconnection. You have an experience. You have something that you've never had before. So I would definitely say come to Gambia, you know, and come and have a look. Come on holiday. Come see, and you know, try and see if you can make a life for yourself here, because there's nothing like living among your brothers and sisters. And it doesn't matter whether KD's from Nigeria or, you know, Sam is from Gambia. It makes no difference. We all work together as one. And I think that's what's really important. So I'm going to ask everybody to go and subscribe to KD's channel, which is Perspective, if you haven't already. We would appreciate it. We're trying to build each other's channels. And of course, I'd like to
put
thank
the link in. Put the link in.
on my sofa, Abdullah, for Youth for Change, for you to subscribe. He's out, he's Sparko. And so, yeah, he won't be coming to say goodbye. And of course, Catherine, who's always my buddy, keeping me company. And so, just like to say thank you to the whole of the BlaXit team, especially Sam, for your support always. And of course, Eto and all of the team, African Boyo, Vital, etc. So Bode also not forgetting you. So I'd just like to say, everybody go to Gam Jams if you want to have good food on the 25th of December. They're doing a nice buffet menu down there. So we will be filming there. So come and join us for that lovely buffet menu down at Gam Jam Poco Loco. So please don't forget BlaXit family. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to BlaXit. Please subscribe to Perspective, and please subscribe to For Change. You know, it's onwards and upwards for us all. And I think our common purpose should be one, unity. Second, we got to have race solidarity, race priority, race unity. and we must put our money back into our own community. And we've got to learn to love each other and respect each other more. And we must have race identity. Yeah, we are Africans and we must be proud Africans. So that's where I'm going to end at. Just like to say, you know, big love to you all. Love you all. Take care and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. And write a book about those final goals so that we can all do it as one.
Okay, definitely. Thank you, BlaXit family. We love you. Good night.
We love you. We love you.
I love you too. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.